Welcome back to the Character Quest YouTube channel. I am so glad you're here. I've got my coffee. I hope you've got something to keep you rocking and rolling, because we're going to have some fun learning today about team effectiveness. So here's a question I have for you. What, in your experience, what makes a team highly effective? I'm sure you've been on effective and ineffective teams. What was the difference? Well, that's the question that Google, their people analytics team, which is basically HR, wanted to explore in what was called Project Aristotle, one of my favorite pieces of research, and I love research. This research was a tribute to Aristotle, the philosopher's quote, "The whole is greater than the sum of its parts." And so they compiled the research and landed on the top 5 traits that every team needs to maximize effectiveness. So I want you, while we're going through this, to think through each of these traits. Does your team have these traits? Because these are the ones that you want to focus on. So let's find out. Let's find out as we do this. I'm going to do this in a countdown format. So stick with me to the end, because the number one trait of highly effective teams is something that I've talked about a lot. I've talked about it here on this channel. I've talked about it in the podcast, and I'm going to talk about it again because it is the most important thing. And yes, I said it. It's the most important thing if you want to lead an effective team. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Derek Matthews, a co-founder of Character Quest, where we help you become the greatest leadership version of yourself. If you want to level up your leadership, then hit that subscribe button down below and hit the bell to be notified when we post a weekly video. And get out your phone. Check us out over on Instagram at Character Quest. I post a lot of fun stuff over there. I started doing reels. Those are pretty fun and engaging. I like doing them. You have to be really creative to think of those things, but they are a lot of fun. And then lastly, we have our podcast, which is a blast. I've really enjoyed doing the podcast, and it's helped me really think through about my beliefs on leadership, and I hope it does the same for you. Trait number 5 is impact. So this research says that team members think their work matters and creates change. Without a doubt, it's really important to know that your 9 to 5 contributions at work make a difference, whether it's in the lives of those you work with, whether it's on your team, whether it's in the company, you're making an impact on the company's growth, whether it's in the community, and whether it's in the world. If you are working for SpaceX, well, you're probably making an impact on space travel, and that's really cool. That's a great feeling. If you're working in a medical field, doing breakthrough research on vaccines and things of that sort, you're making an impact on the world through medical technology. Well, not all of us are in really cool industries like that, but each of us can make an impact on the lives of those we touch every single day. And you as a leader, you must help each of your people see the impact they make on whatever scale it is. Sounds simple, but this is something that's very important as a leader for engagement. Trait number 4 is meaning. Work is personally important to team members. I mean, this one here is pretty straightforward. Google says finding a sense of purpose in either the work itself or the output is important for team effectiveness. The meaning of work is personal and can vary. Financial security, supporting family, helping the team succeed, or self-expression for each individual, for example. That's what they say. Now, I'm going to put this in my terms, my layman's terms. I'm going to tell a little story. It's called The Parable of the Bricklayer, and this gets into everyone has a different meaning. Everyone derives different meaning from their 9 to 5, okay? So there's 3 bricklayers working. Some random passerby walks by and says to the first bricklayer, "What are you building?" First bricklayer says, "I'm building a wall." Second bricklayer says, "I'm building a church." The third bricklayer says, "I'm building the house of God." Now, those are all 3 very different answers. And why is that? They're all working on the same project. It's because they have a different perspective. They derive different amounts of meaning from their work. No answer is right, but each bricklayer is different. And so we have to understand the people that we lead to keep them engaged and to keep them effective, to tap into how they derive meaning. Are they building a wall? Do they just work 9 to 5 because it's a job and it puts food on the table? Are they building a church? They're a really career hungry and ambitious person and they want to climb the ladder. That's what motivates them. That's the meaning they get. Or are they the person that's building the house of God? They're working for a calling. They feel called to do what they're doing. This is just something for you to think about. And I think that it sheds a lot of light on what meaning means in work. So I really enjoy that story. I read that from Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Great book. Highly recommend. Okay, trait number 3 is structure and clarity. Team members have clear roles, plans, and goals. Look, this is much more difficult with the remote workforce because we're all over the place. I'm sure you're affected by it. The whole workforce is affected by it right now. And so that's why it's more important than ever to dial in on apps like Asana, Slack. And no, I'm not sponsored by them. This is what we have done with our businesses, is use apps like this to help us know what we're supposed to do, know when it's supposed to be done, and not, have these clear roles, goals, and responsibilities. That is key, especially when people are spread out. So check out these apps. They're very helpful. I will leave some links down below if you are interested in learning about some more, but structure and clarity is important for team effectiveness. Trait number 2 is dependability. Team members get things done on time and meet a high bar of excellence. So I talked about this on the top 12 traits of high performance company culture from a Gallup engagement survey, which was a video I did a couple weeks ago. No, I did part 2. I talked about this. One of the top traits of a high performance team is quality work. When you work with a team that really wants to do a good job, it's motivating. It's super motivating. So let me shed some light on kind of the way that I look at this. Have you ever heard of the broken window theory? Well, I want you to picture this, okay? You're walking down the street. You reach in your pocket to grab your phone, and a piece of trash falls out. Would you pick it up? Now, most of us would pick it up. Regardless of where we're at, we would pick it up. I would. But this theory holds, the broken window theory holds, that you would be less inclined to pick up your trash in an area of town that is dirty with broken windows on the building. And now I'm oversimplifying this, but if you're in a nice neighborhood, you would, without a doubt, pick up the trash. We react to our environments, and we are a product of our environments. This is how teams work. If your team values excellence, then you are going to be compelled to stick to that standard. What's the standard on your team? Can you depend on each person in your team to live at that high bar of excellence? There's going to be a few that don't ever have a high bar of excellence. But does your team want to produce the best quality work possible? Do they want to reread that email before it gets sent out to check for spelling errors? Or do they just send it off? It is what it is. Move on to the next thing. Do they reread documents and ask questions of other people? Hey, does this make sense? Does that make sense? Things of that sort. That's just like the broken window theory. When we value quality work, we will create quality work, and the people around us will become a product of that environment. And when you can depend on your team to create quality work, that creates team effectiveness. Okay, so we've made it through them. I said I was doing this in a countdown. Last but not least, the number one trait of highly effective teams is psychological safety. You probably guessed that because I talk about it a lot. This is where team members feel safe to take risks and be vulnerable in front of each other. So psychological safety, or a safe haven, is the most important thing you as a leader can build within your team. Without it, most people will clam up and not bring their best self to work each day. That's why I like to define psychological safety as allowing for moderate risk-taking, speaking your mind, creativity, and sticking your neck out without fear of having it cut off. Perfect example of this is I remember in high school when I was in certain classes, I always liked to contribute in class. I've always been like that. And there were certain classes where I knew I could raise my hand and contribute, and I would be praised for it, or I would be called on and I wouldn't be made fun of. And there were other classes where if I raised my hand and tried to contribute, there'd be the punk in the back that would like smirk and laugh and make fun of me. And so which class did I feel psychologically safer in to contribute? Well, the first class, because I knew that if I contributed, I wouldn't be laughed at. And I'm sure you remember that from high school and junior high, or wherever. But we need to create psychologically safe environments. It is the most important thing we can do, because when people feel safe, they can be themselves. They can share ideas, they can be creative, and they can stick their head out without fear of having it cut off. So if you want to create psychological safety, what are the 4 things that you need to do? There is another video I'll link up above or down below on a full explanation of how to create psychological safety, but I'll give you the bullet points right now. You have to say 4 things. 1, you have to let people know that they belong on your team. Number 2 is they need to know that it's okay to be vulnerable. And how do they do that? By you being vulnerable. You're the leader. You must model the way. You must be vulnerable. You must be able to say, I don't know the answer to that question, but maybe we can find someone together who does. That's vulnerability. Or I'm not very good at that. That's not my wheelhouse. That's not my strength zone. But let's find someone else who has those strengths. That's being vulnerable. Saying, I'm really struggling with working from home too. That's being vulnerable as a leader. Being creative. Welcome creativity. Celebrate creativity. Make margin for creativity. Don't blow through your meetings just to get the agenda done. Make time for creativity and asking questions. And what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Get a read on the room of what other people are thinking. The Zoom room too, if you're doing it on Zoom. And last but not least, the 4th thing is you got to challenge the process, not the person. Challenge the process, not the person. So again, I'm going to link that video so that you can watch more in depth of psychological safety, because Google says this is the number 1 trait of highly effective teams. So if you want to build an effective team that you can trust and get the job done, to be engaged regardless of the conditions or their level of burnout, then these are the traits, as simple as they sound, because they do sound really simple. These are the traits that you have to develop, that you have to focus on. And I want to know down in the comments below, which of the 5 traits is your team the best at? Because it's nice to talk about and brag about our team. We're really good. I know our team is really good at dependability. Our team's really good at dependability. We always strive to set the bar high and do quality work, and that feels good. No slackers on our team. So I want to thank you for watching this. Again, hit that subscribe button down below if you like this type of content and you want to grow your leadership skills so that you can make a bigger impact, grow your influence, and be a better leader. So until next time, thanks for watching.